All right, let's dive right in. We're going to be talking about a brand new playbook that tackles one of the biggest headaches for CPA firms everywhere. How do you actually scale your growth without completely burning out your team in the process?
Does this hit close to home? I mean, think about it. The clients are there, the opportunities are everywhere, but for so many firm owners, growth just feels exhausting. Your teams are stretched thin, the deadlines are just relentless, and it feels like the finish line just keeps moving further and further away.
So, what's the deal? Why is it so tough? Well, the problem isn't a lack of work. The real issue is that we're all using an outdated strategy. The old playbook, the one that worked for decades? Yeah, it's officially broken. It's why tax season gets more grueling every single year, and the pressure just never lets up. You know the drill, right? For years, the cycle was pretty simple. When the workload got heavier, you just hired more local people and asked everyone to put in more hours. But that model, it has completely hit a wall. And now it's just creating this vicious cycle of pressure that's hurting your team's morale and your client's experience. And it's not just one thing, it's a whole cascade of problems. First, just finding qualified local talent is getting tougher and tougher. Then, you're getting hit with sky-high salary expectations. Even if you find someone, the time it takes to train them is time you just don't have. And to top it all off, high turnover can completely disrupt your client service. It's like a gauntlet that just strangles your firm's ability to grow.
Okay, so if the old way is broken, what on earth are you supposed to do? Well, it takes a total shift in strategy. It's about building a firm that's resilient and adaptable. It's time to move away from that brute force method of just working harder and start embracing a new playbook, one that's all about working smarter by building flexible global teams.
And the contrast here is just night and day. On one hand, you're stuck relying on a super tight local talent pool. On the other, you're building a flexible global team. Instead of just grinding out longer hours, you're working smarter. And you finally get to replace that awful cycle of burnout and turnover with the power to scale up or down whenever you need to.
And this is the point I really want to hammer home. Building a global team is not just some cost-cutting trick. It is a massive strategic decision. It's about creating a truly sustainable model that lets you scale, that protects your profit margins, and, most importantly, finally reduces that burnout that is absolutely plaguing our industry.
Of course, just deciding to go global isn't a magic bullet. Success is absolutely not guaranteed. It all comes down to having the right framework in place. So let's break down what that actually means. And listen, this is a really critical point that a lot of people miss. So many firms get bogged down debating nearsourcing versus offshoring. But here's the truth. Whether your team is in the next country over or halfway across the world, what really determines if you succeed isn't the distance, it's the structure.
So what does that structure look like? Well, it really rests on three key pillars. First, you need documented workflows. You can't have consistency without a clear process everyone follows. Second, dedicated teams. This is not about throwing work at some random pool of people. It's about integrating people who become part of your firm's culture. And third, you need crystal clear accountability, so everyone, both here and abroad, knows exactly what their job is. That is what turns a good idea into a powerhouse system. And when you get these pillars right, oh man, the benefits are real. All of a sudden, you've got faster turnarounds during tax season, your processes are actually followed every time, you're not desperately scrambling for last-minute help anymore, and you get this incredible flexibility to grow or shrink your team based on demand without skipping a beat. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? We've talked strategy, we've talked structure, but what does this actually look like day to day? Let's get into how this new playbook can transform some of the most stressful parts of running your firm. Let's start with the big one, the annual stress test for every single accounting firm out there. Does tax season really have to feel like a 5-alarm fire every single year?
Just imagine this transformation. The before picture is your best people buried in tedious prep work, which leads to rushed reviews and frantic client calls. Now the after picture, a global support team handles all that prep, freeing up your onshore experts to focus on what they do best, high-level reviews, complex compliance, and client strategy. The result? You go from burnout and errors to a smooth, less stressful tax season.
All right, now let's talk about a function that kind of flies under the radar, until something goes wrong, that is. Accounts payable. It might seem like small potatoes, but trust me, inefficiencies here can be a silent killer of your firm's and your clients' profitability. And again, the change is just dramatic.
You go from this manual, chaotic process with late payments and zero visibility into cash flow to a standardized, predictable system. Payments are on time, errors vanish, and you get this amazing clarity into cash flow. You've just turned a reactive chore into a proactive, value-add service for your clients. Now, let's be real for a minute. Not every firm that tries to build a global team succeeds. Some attempts are, frankly, a disaster. So what's the difference? What separates a true partnership from a failed experiment?
Well, the firms that struggle all make the same mistakes. They take shortcuts. They skip the hard work of documenting their processes. They kind of just throw work over the wall and expect the new team to figure it out. And they treat it like a cheap temporary fix. But the successful firms, they do the exact opposite. They invest the time up front, they provide real training, and most importantly, they see it as a long-term partnership. And that right there is the bottom line. This isn't about buying a commodity service. It is about building a real relationship. The moment you start treating your global team as a true extension of your staff, investing in them, integrating them, that's when the results just take off. And ultimately, this whole new playbook isn't about your team doing less work. It's about empowering your onshore team to do the work that matters most. We're talking about high-level strategic advice, deepening those critical client relationships, and actually having time to drive the future of your firm.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When you look at your firm right now, is it built simply to survive the next busy season, or is it truly built for sustainable strategic growth? The choice and the opportunity is all yours.